Summer heat's starting to build up in the greenhouse, so I put shade cloth on it to try and cool it down in here. There's a cucumber plant growing there. I've been harvesting about one cucumber a week off of that, and still doing well. You can see the green shade of the shade cloth. It's a 60% shade cloth. It's over the top of the greenhouse. We have some peppers. That's a jalapeno pepper and a bell pepper and another bell pepper. Most of the winter crops are finished. This is some lettuce and Swiss chard, some bok choy, Chinese cabbage, a little more lettuce, and a few remaining spring onions. But this bed needs to be reworked and replanted. But right now we're looking at the shade cloth. I had to cut out for the windows so that I could open them and get cross ventilation. And I think I'm going to paint the windows so that they don't let a lot of heat in. These tanks are filled with water for heat retention, and they'll probably be emptied this summer and used to watering the plants and then refilled in the fall. That's the thermostat there and the thermometer that's used for turning on and off the exhaust fan. There's also a remote monitor there that I can monitor the temperature of the greenhouse inside the house. The exhaust fan you can see is running because it's warm in here. It's almost 90 degrees. There's also a circulating air fan. That is a airplane plant there, which loves this. It's almost in full bloom right now. They love the heat and the humidity, so they're doing well in here. The other side of the greenhouse, and you can see the shade cloth on it as well, and another set of windows. This shelf is where the seed starter trays were. They're all outside now, so those trays are empty. This down below is where the bokashi buckets were for the winter time. I don't do bokashi during the summer, so they're sitting there empty. And over on this side is another little fan circulating air and another airplane plant. And then the south wall, which has a 36-inch walk-in door, and the window is open on that. And over here is the air intake vent, which is also thermostatically controlled. It opens and closes. But it's really much more comfortable in here now that this shade cloth is on it. So I'll go outside now and we'll walk around the outside and look at it. Okay, here's the outside of the greenhouse. This is the south-facing side. The hood there is over an air intake vent. That hood was put on to keep the rain and snow from blowing into the greenhouse. There's no shade cloth on the south side at the present time. That's something I'm going to consider in the future, but right now it's doing pretty well with just the two main sides covered. And you can see here that the shade cloth is draped entirely over the greenhouse and down to the sides, and then I cut out for the windows so that it could be open for cross ventilation. And the shade cloth is a 60%, I think I mentioned earlier, which has done a marvelous job. It drops the temperature about 15 degrees inside of the greenhouse, and it was very easy to install. This shade cloth took less than an hour to get it installed, and I put hooks down onto the bottom of the greenhouse. I'll see if I can zoom in a little bit, and you can see there's an eye bolt down there, and every 2 feet there's an eye bolt and a bungee cord holding down the shade cloth. This gets to the north end of the greenhouse. There's the exhaust fan with the hood over it. And again, there's no shade cloth on the north end and doesn't need any because there's no sun over here. But it's a beautiful little greenhouse and we're really enjoying it. Go around to the west side and it'll be a little easier probably to see the shade cloth because the sun's shining over here. You can see the windows are open. You can see the shade cloth the full length of the building, and down the side it covers the twin wall polycarbonate so that it blocks out a lot of the sun. That's a 60% reduction in sun going through that into that greenhouse. So we're having real good success. And as I mentioned earlier, I was really surprised at how easy it was to put this shade cloth on. I threw ropes over the greenhouse, pulled a shade cloth across it and anchored it down, and I was done. It took probably less than an hour and took longer to cut out the openings for the windows than it did to put on the shade cloth. And this is anchored down with bungee cords just like it was on the other side. So that's pretty much the tour of the greenhouse with the shade cloth added. It sits here in the middle of our garden, or on the edge actually of our garden. The raised beds are just beginning to start getting used. These are all rhubarb plants along here in the fire rings. We've been harvesting a lot of rhubarb so far this spring. And then our flower bed is up on the other end there. So we're ready for summer. We've got the greenhouse covered. It's keeping cool and it's feeding us. Thanks for watching.